we are debating immigration policy. And I just want to get a bit of a flavour of what our audience thinks about it. What are our thoughts here? Yes, yourself at the back.
Yeah, so Sinead made the very good point that I was going to make as well, that we've had direct provision for a quarter of a century now at this stage. It was meant to be temporary, and there are still people who went in 20 years ago that are still there. In terms of immigration for Ukrainians, it was 3% of the population of Ireland were from Ukraine coming into Ireland. It was 2% last year. It's not this massive influx or invasion that people seem to think. The only reason people are angry about it is because of government incompetence, where they simply don't know what they're doing. How many thousand houses were donated to Red Cross that haven't been contacted? You know, we have places we can put people that aren't tents in Stradbally or on Molesworth Street or somewhere like that. It's pure and utter incompetence, and it's actually probably something that they're doing deliberately to make changes like they're doing now.
Okay, well, it's a leap ahead. We might have to put that to the Minister. Yeah, yourself, yeah?
So firstly, I see we're going to talk about Dromahare, and I'm from Sligo myself. There are genuine concerns in communities. That has to be noted. That's the first thing I want to say. But we must realise the government's response on this. They had a very unprecedented situation to deal with, and to say it's incompetent is ridiculous. They have dealt with it well, and they're dealing with it as it's going forward. We're taking the European approach. That is what has to be done. But there is one thing that we need to be very careful about here, and it's missing in an awful lot of these conversations. Ireland is the great country that it is because of the rich, diverse nature of our country and the people in it. And we're having this conversation. We need to have the conversation. There are issues in local communities that need to be addressed, absolutely. But we cannot feed into the far-right arguments that are being sprouted in areas in the country.
Okay, and I know you were very supportive of the government there. Have you connections with any political...
I am member of Fianna Fáil, yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, yourself. Sorry, just wait for the mic to get you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to add, I understand there's obligations, legal obligations for the country to take in migrants. I'm a product and a beneficiary of coming to this country as a migrant. And Ireland is very diverse and very welcoming, which is fantastic. But I think we're missing the big piece where there's a bit of social unrest. It's not as a consequence of the Irish people not wanting migrants coming into the country. It's an issue that the existing people in the country are not being taken care of. And I think the government needs to do a better job. As we say, take care of the Irish first. I think it's the right of any citizen in their own country to ask to be taken care of first. But the situation we have is that, not just from a housing perspective, but as overall, on a lot of resources, mental health, different areas, that the country needs help on is not getting it. So I suppose my question is, you know, at what point do we put the Irish people first? Because I benefit as a consequence of the help of Irish people, and they also need to be taken care of.
Okay, we'll get back to the panel with that later. But I want to go now to, I suppose, what's become a very familiar pattern now. We've covered it in the studio a number of times over the last year. It's happening, we know, in Rosslare this evening. There's protests over asylum seekers being brought into Rosslare. And we want to go to the village of Dromahare in Leitrim. And you've been mobilising up there over plans to accommodate 155 international protection applicants in your local hotel. Fiona and Mary, you came up to us from Leitrim this evening. I should tell people, if they're not familiar with Dromahare, it's not a major metropolis, just over 900 people in the village. And I understand you thought that the local hotel, the Abbey Manor Hotel, was being renovated to accommodate 26 incoming families. And you would have been okay with that? Yeah, that's right. The hotel got planning permission for 26 suites, which were bedrooms and live-in accommodation, and all along we were being told that there was families of refugees coming to the hotel. So we were taken by surprise then when the IPAS briefing came out, and it said that there was going to be 155 IPAS applicants being accommodated in the hotel, a mixture of single males and families. And how did you find out about it? Well, I had made inquiries to our local politicians, and when the briefing came out on the 7th of November, they had forwarded me a copy of the briefing. I know, and I have to ask you this, there were reports that there were roadblocks being set up by locals to stop asylum seekers arriving in the village.
Yeah, there were no roadblocks, and the Gardaí in Manorhamilton confirmed that there were no roadblocks, and they had no reports of roadblocks. We did have 2 gatherings in the village out of pure frustration, because when the IPRAS briefing came out, it said that if the community had any concerns, they could contact the community team in the Department of Integration. So we sent email after email after email and got no reply of any.
Yeah, I think we can show a picture of one of your protests there. People might be able to see it at home. A lot of people turned up at those protests for a small community.
Yeah, there were about 400 people there that evening, and I suppose...
Was it all locals?
It was all locals, yeah. The first evening on the Wednesday evening, it was organised really overnight. We decided to get together a very simple petition, and it was simply saying, Dromahair, we're not saying no to refugees. We are asking the government departments and the developer to reconsider the numbers and to house families as promised. And we were very happy to welcome refugees.
What's your main concerns?
So I suppose our main concerns are that the numbers are too high for the village. It is a very small village, 1 street. The population is going to increase by about 20% overnight. We don't feel like anybody has listened to any of our concerns. There's been a complete lack of communication, consultation. We don't feel like we have any reason to trust the community team and the Department of Integration.
There have been voices raised locally saying, look, you know, this is an emergency, this is a crisis, there's people being handed tents and told to sleep on the streets. Like, it's just wrong to have a building like the Abbey Manor Hotel vacant in those circumstances.
Yeah, and I suppose we had never wished that it'd be vacant. We had always said we were going to be happy to welcome families. The Abbey Hotel is in the centre of the village. It's a real focal point in the village. The 3 buses for the school stop there with our children. Our fear is that even though the briefing says that it's going to be 155, a mixture of families and single males, we don't have any reason to believe that it's not going to end up full of single males. And we have concerns about that, and we feel the concerns are genuine concerns.
What are your concerns?
We have 3 buses stopped there at the Abbey Hotel in the morning to take the children to school. There's very little in the village for teenagers to do. They spend a lot of time in the park. They'll have to walk by the Abbey Hotel to get to the park. The elderly people in the village will walk down at the back of the hotel to go to the cemetery. There's a busy shop opposite it. I think if you were to take 155 males from anywhere in the country and put them into a building of that size with very little to do.
But just to be clear, it's 31 is the figure you've been told.
Well, the last communication we got, it didn't even limit the number to 31 males.
Okay.